Good morning and welcome to Hearts Standard Morning Briefing. My name is Joe Sked, editor of Hearts Standard. I'm joined by my colleague James Kearney as we look back on Heart of Midlothian's 1-0 win over Kilmarnock in the Scottish Premiership on Saturday, a result that lifted Hearts up into third place. It was the fourth consecutive league win, the first time Hearts have put that many league wins together since the start of I think it was the 2018-2019 season, and it means 4 league away wins, eclipsing last season's total of 3. So a very, very positive match on Saturday, or certainly result. I've kind of separated this, James, into six talking points, but there may be more, there may be less. We'll see how we go. But you spent yesterday rewatching the game. You've got an analysis piece going up this afternoon or later this morning on Hearts Standard to kind of dissect how Hearts won and the kind of the positives. On your watch back, was there anything that really stood out?
Honestly, to be honest, the thing that probably stood out the most watching it back was that Danny Armstrong's a very good player and he was causing all sorts of problems. That was definitely one of the things that kind of jumped out at me. I thought, watching it back, I mean, you notice that basically everything that Kelly did that was positive went through him. I just think he's a very good player. I'm a big fan. He was causing all sorts of trouble. Even though I think Alex Cochrane had a good game, and obviously he was directly up against Cochrane, there were still a few times when he just had the beating of Cochrane and was able to find some space out wide. But as I'm sure we'll go on to talk about, I think that was actually quite a deliberate ploy from Hearts to leave basically Cochrane up against Armstrong 1v1, to have space in behind Cochrane that Armstrong can attack, but with the understanding that, okay, so there might be some crosses coming in, but when they do come in, we're going to make sure we defend those rather than try to prevent the cross in the first instance. So again, we can maybe, I'm sure we'll sort of dig into the detail of it, but again, it became clear to me watching it back the second time that there seemed to be a concerted effort from Hearts to allow Armstrong to kind of get the ball and drive and then get balls in the box, knowing that the back three of Kai Rolls, Frankie Kent, and what's his face? Stephen Kingsley. Thank you. Apologies to Stephen Kingsley. Knowing that those three were going to be solid enough within their structure, they weren't going to get drawn towards the ball or anything like that. So that when the balls did come in, basically there was 3 guys attacking one ball in. So whether they went short, middle, or far post, there was always somebody there to defend against it. So yeah, I mean, when you look back, when I was watching it back, yes, there are spells where Hearts are under pressure for decent chunks of the game. Kelly were bombarding the box as they're wont to do. We know that. But I think all in all, Hearts actually stood up to the pressure pretty well. I mean, I remember watching the game on Saturday with you, being there and watching the first, I don't know, maybe half hour or so and thinking, Hearts are in trouble here. You know, Kelly are seeing a lot of the ball. They're getting in dangerous areas. This isn't great. But actually, in the second time watching it, I didn't think there was too many clear-cut chances for Kelly. I mean, there was one quite early on in the first half when Armstrong had the ball. He kind of bombed past Cochrane out. It's George Grant. He bombed past George Grant on the right, and then put a low cut back in towards David Watson, who kind of just clipped out wide of the far post, and you think probably should have been a goal realistically. But after that, I mean, there weren't too many heart and mouth moments. I think actually Hearts did a pretty decent job of soaking up the pressure. Obviously, with Hearts' goal, there was a touch of fortune about it. We can't deny that. But I mean, even up until that point, I mean, Liam Boyce had a few decent chances before he had to come off injured. And then, kind of, as the second half wore on, and there's actually a wee flurry of chances towards the end, kind of approaching the 90-minute mark, where Hearts easily could have doubled their advantage, and then it's all of a sudden it becomes very comfortable. So, yeah, again, it's one of those matches where it was cagey. It was a difficult game, but I think actually Hearts managed it really well, both in terms of the conditions and that it was such a cold game. We know what the pitch is like. We know it wasn't an easy game. It's quite battling, quite stop-start, quite all that kind of stuff, a little bit chaotic. But I think in the end, it has to be seen as 3 really well-earned points for Hearts. I'm sure Kelly fans will be frustrated. I'm sure Kelly fans will say, we probably should have got something more from the game. Maybe there's some truth to that. But I do think that ultimately this was just a really professional performance from Hearts, where they had to play a little differently to what they've been doing recently.
So So I think that's a big thing. Like we'll come on to talk about Danny Armstrong, kind of how. I think both of us would like to see him in a Hearts top, but we'll come on to talk about that. But the Hearts tactics, I think that's probably the first thing to dig into, because this was a game very different to one that Hearts have played at all this season in terms of against a team that's not Celtic or Rangers. It's the first time they've not had the majority share of possession. It's the second fewest number of passes they made in a game, behind the game against Rangers at Ibrox. So it was a completely different performance that Hearts fans have seen. I think there's been question marks this season, like can Hearts withstand the battle? Can they do like the bread and butter of Scottish football, dealing with the physical side of things? And they really did. And I wish you could bring it up here, but when I looked at StatsBomb yesterday, who have a partnership with, a lot of football clubs use them for kind of their data. Then they had the heat map, and it was just how stark, how much of Hearts' pressure, their defensive pressure, was on the edge of their own box, and that kind of tallied with. You do look at the stats, and you've seen that the three centre backs made more clearances than the entire Kilmarnock team altogether, as you note in your piece. And I looked at the stats yesterday in terms of the headed, the aerial dominance. Well, Frankie Kent was excellent. Stephen Kingsley was excellent. But the big one that stood out for me was Kai Rose. He had a 71% success rate in there. That's the first time this season in the league he has won more than 70% of his duels, maybe even more than 65% of his duels. So the three of them stood up, and it did seem like you said, a conscious decision to allow Kilmarnock to go down the flanks, where it's almost like you kind of don't want them to put crosses into the box. But Hearts were like, actually, like you said, we're happy for you to put crosses into the box, and then we'll deal with them, which you did over the course of 90 plus minutes.
No, exactly. I mean, that was it. I mean, certainly, like Kelly's build-up play, it did occasionally go down the left, but it was rarely a view to get the ball in from the left. It was normally go down the left and then be a big switch ball out to the Armstrong on the right, and then get Armstrong to hit the ball into the box. So there was a little bit of variation in the styles of attack and the styles of build-up. I mean, one thing that Hearts really didn't like, for instance, is whenever Lewis Mayo or Stuart Findlay, who were the two kind of wide centre-backs for Kelly, if a lot of the time they were hitting these big long diagonal balls across the park, and then almost every single one of them came off, whether that was playing out to Brad Lyons or on the left, or out to Armstrong on the right. But they had a good habit of winning them and getting those balls forward, so the Hearts didn't like those at all.
Because you noted that you turned to me during the game and said about the Killy diagonal balls, that they just every time they're just looking to hit the switch of play.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the end, obviously this doesn't account for every aerial duel that they had, but I mean, Sibbick and Cochrane both had 4 aerial duels in the game, and they only won 1. Now, the 3 they lost aren't necessarily diagonal balls, but I'd be willing to bet a good couple of them were, because they just couldn't really deal with it at all. But as I say, so I think there was a bit of a ploy from Hearts' perspective, just to be like, look, let Armstrong have the ball. There's no point in doubling up on him, because chances are he's probably just going to beat you anyway. I think that was maybe the logic of it. I think it's just a respect of Armstrong's ability, the fact that he can cut inside, no bother. He's quite happy to cut inside, actually, onto his favourite weak left foot. He's happy to burst beyond the outside and then get the ball in. So I think that there's just a kind of calculation made by Steven Naismith at some point, which went, okay, we're going to keep, Armstrong will get past our man and get balls in the box. So would we rather, we're going to try and just stop them at source and get an extra man out there, or do we just have the rest of the defence sitting off them and just waiting for that delivery to come in until they can kind of snuff out at that point? And that's what Hearts did, and they did it really well. Like you say, Frankie Kent didn't lose a header all game. Rose and Kingsley were both had pretty good success rates in those regards. None of the 3 gave were directly dispossessed, so nobody was like robbed of possession at any point in the game. Okay, there's the odd slack pass and things like that, of course, but no one was like kind of directly robbed of the ball. So again, it just shows that kind of there's a real sort of measuredness, I think, to it all.
Mhm.
A real sort of sense of control, even though Hearts didn't have the ball, even though Hearts had a lot less of the ball than they're used to. There was still um, there weren't that many gaps for them to exploit. And you're right. I mean, if you look at the Hearts' pressure map, it's basically just a big, huge line on the edge of the 18-yard box, and that's where everything was getting done.
Yeah.
But again, it worked because Kelly, yeah, they did have chances. Yeah, they had some balls in the box, and obviously, yeah, things like set pieces from corners and all that kind of thing. Yeah, those were dangerous moments, and theoretically, any one of those can go in. But as we said, Hearts' defensive record defensive set pieces this season is excellent. I mean, they're still not conceded one. That's brilliant. And again, you're not going to get any bigger challenges than Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, and especially in a game like that where it's wintry and the ball is loose. People are struggling to get their foot on the ball and control it. It's it's going to go out for corners. It's going to go out for throw-ins. It's going to be in those dangerous areas. And yet Hearts stood up to it really well. So again, I think there's a lot of reasons to feel encouraged. Like you said, it was a different game to the likes of even the recent wins over Livingston, Motherwell, St Johnstone, where Hearts bossed possession. The opposition just sat deep in their shape and just dared Hearts to break them down. This wasn't that. Like Kelly were a lot more aggressive. They were trying to play a lot more, and they were trying to kind of force the issue themselves more than any of those other teams were. I think during their matches. But Hearts were excellent. Again, that's my main sort of takeaway. Yeah, there was maybe a touch of fortune about the goal, but I do think that even if that goal doesn't go in, Hearts probably do end up getting a goal somewhere during that match anyway. I mean, I think particularly when Boyce was on the park, Hearts were making some good ones. I mean, obviously he came off after picking up a knock, but he had. I think it had three shots on goal where it's like at least one of them should have been at least on the target. Yeah, I don't think Boyce was at his he had his shooting boots on the other day, but I think even when Oda came on and then even when Oda moved up there, even later on in the game when Tagawa got there, Hearts still carried some threat about them, and there were moments when they managed to unpick Kelly, but I think a lot of it came down to the moments when Hearts chose to be brave on the ball. I mean, if you look at, for instance, the opening goal, that all started because Kai Rose gets the ball, and rather than kind of dawdling forward with it and waiting for Kyle Vassell to catch up with him, he just bombs it forward. He takes Vassell out of the game, he starts driving forward, and all of a sudden now Kelly have to worry about what we're going to do with this, 6'2" Aussie guy that's charging at us. And so eventually someone gets drawn towards the ball, they're out of position. Someone else starts looking at another man. He starts looking at Cochrane out wide, and all of a sudden Hearts are in. And again, we saw that with the goal. We saw it was a great chance in the second half. One where it was like Sibbick's shot on the edge of the box, it got blocked. Again, that all starts from Grant getting the ball, driving forward with the ball at his feet, waiting until he draws the man, then shifting the ball on. Just clever, measured attack and play. And then we saw it again, right, quite near the death actually with Alex Cochrane again. Wins the ball out left, charges forward, beats Vassell, opens up some space, drives into it, draws the man, shifts the ball on. Once he's drawn the man, and a couple of passes down the road, it's almost a brilliant goal. It actually gets worked back to Cochrane, and he's unlucky not to score. So I think looking at those moments, they remind me a lot of. We hear Steven Naismith a lot of the time speaking about the need for players to be brave on the ball, to take risks. And I think this is exactly the kind of thing he's getting at. It's like we needed to see someone on the three occasions when a Hearts player decided to try and break the lines, drive forward, cause some disruption, ask some awkward questions. All three of those resulted in an excellent chance, and one of them resulted in the only goal of the game. So I think that again was encouraging. The one thing you'd say is, well, we need to see more of that. Because I think Rose there has been a few occasions this season now when he's decided to kind of carry the ball forward, burst forward with it, and almost every time it's resulted in a great chance. So it's like, well, yeah,
because he did it. He did it at Rugby Park in the win and earlier on in the season as well in the League Cup. It was him that.
So he did. Very similar. Yeah, very similar idea. Yeah, he got the ball and just charged, and again, it makes life uncomfortable. Kilmarnock didn't really like it whenever any Hearts players did that. So again, I thought that was again something encouraging, something that we need to see a little bit more of. And again, as I said, because Hearts did it 3 times in that game and could have got 3 goals out of it. So yeah, more of this, please.
You mentioned Tagawa there. Wanted to kind of speak of him because we've spoken about the tactics. You've spoken about the tactics without the ball, with the ball. We've spoken about the key men, like it was Kai Rolls, it is Stephen Kingsley and Frankie Kent were the key men. The midfield did a good job. I thought Benny had a really understated role as well. But with Tagawa coming off the bench, I think first time in a while that Hearts fans been able to see him. There's been a lot of talk. He's obviously not settled immediately. He's not helped by injuries, getting up to the speed of the game. From what I've heard, he's impressed a lot in training, and it looked to me like he looked bigger. Certainly more. He seemed more in tune with the physical side of the game, but also really impressed was how direct he was when he had the ball, but also when he didn't have the ball. He was 3 or 4 occasions, if I remember correctly, he was wanting to run in behind, where someone had dropped in, and he was on the shoulder of the shoulder of the last man, wanting to play the ball in. And on a couple of occasions, if the ball was moved quicker or it was just or moved better, he was in on goal and had a great chance, and obviously had a shot that just went past the post towards the end as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, so he had that shot was a really powerful one. It's a good one when he kind of worked on his left. Maybe an argument to say he should have maybe played it back to Shanklin. I think maybe Shanklin was looking for the ball back, but we can't blame the guy again. He's still looking for his first league goal. It's on his favourite foot. He's got a good position. He's more than entitled to have a goal. But yeah, I was quite impressed with Tagawa again. It was nice to see him get a decent spell off the bench. So I think he came on about the hour mark. So he got about half an hour or so, which is a good chunk of game time. And yeah, I thought that it was, like you say, he was direct. He was kind of willing to make those runs. And you could see as well that when he gets going, he's quite quick as well. Like, we've said it before, he's not generally fast. Few people are. But he was very quick. I mean, there's one point when Callum Neuenhoff was kind of breaking forward with the ball. Neuenhoff was going as fast as he could, and Tagawa was still sprinting he started behind him, but he still managed to he finished up ahead of him, because he was it's the right time to get on my bike. So yeah, I thought he was good. Like you say, he does offer something different. There's definitely more of a presence to him than someone like, for instance, Yutaro Oda, who was playing up there until Tagawa came on. And I think that you can see he's just more of a natural striker. I'm not convinced about Oda up front for Hearts. I think that there's no doubt in his work rate, or the fact that he's always willing to try and win the ball and try and use the ball well. But I just don't think it gets the most out of him. I just don't know if he's got the right sort of profile to play there. I don't know if he's quite he's got the presence of, say, someone like Tagawa, for instance. But
I'm also not sure he's got the profile or presence to play at right wing back either. From what we saw in the first opening period. Yeah,
I think I'm probably with you on that one as well. So yeah, I feel we have a bad for Oda at the moment with this shape, because I don't know if there's anywhere he naturally squeezes into it, to be quite frank. But no, I think Tagawa, is a fairly brief cameo again in the grand scheme of things, but I did think that he showed what he can offer, and especially if, obviously, we don't know the state of Liam Boyce at the moment. We don't know what his injury is going to be like. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious, but we'll need to find out at tomorrow's press conference if there is a situation where Boyce is out for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks. If obviously at this time of the season, that could mean 5 or 6 games or something like that. But I do think that if Boyce were to drop out the squad for a bit because of an injury, I think Tagawa's maybe starting to show. I think he's shown that. It wouldn't necessarily, wouldn't lead to some sort of striker crisis at Hearts. I think there are other guys that can come in and do not the same role as Boyce. I mean, they don't have the same sort of build-up play or anything like that. But it's just a different. But I do think that Tagawa offers something slightly different to the other strikers that Hearts have got at the moment, and it's just a case of, I think he just needs to get that first goal, and then kind of see that. Hopefully that helps him to really kick on from there.
So you seen heard Naismith mention it. We asked him about Vargas after the game, and said Vargas got an ankle knock, and therefore they did it. It wasn't major. They just didn't want to risk him, but because they had the options that Naismith can afford to just go right, take a risk. And I think that'd be the same coming into the next few weeks. Obviously, Lowry won't be able to play on Wednesday, so there's that issue with not having that kind of number 10 creative force if him and Boyce are going to miss out. But then you might think you want to go with a midfield which has Benny, Devlin, and then one of Grant or Neuenhoff, and then you've got Tagawa and Shankland up front, and you've got Barry Mackay coming back. So there are options. There's depth there, and like I said, there's not going to be this kind of striker crisis. So yeah, I think there's positive options to come. We'll get to a few of the questions in the comments in just a second, but I want to quickly chat about the decision not to send off Will Dennis, and just quickly, because again, we don't like to harper on about refereeing decisions, but it was interesting that Naismith wasn't. Afterwards, Naismith wasn't overly strong on VAR. He said it was worked fine, and then McInnes wasn't having it at all. He said it was quite galling that his keeper had been sent off for a check. After a check that was, for instance, it was offside. I can see where he was coming from. I don't think he was talking about the challenge, or just think it was because of the nature of how these things play out, where the officials let things go to then see how it ends, and then they'll flag. But this is always a consequence of if you don't flag straight away for like an obvious offside. And I think there was an obvious offside, it can lead to situations like this. But because it was an offside, it doesn't take away the fact that it was a horrific challenge, and it was a red card challenge, which bizarrely wasn't given.
No, exactly. Yeah, like from what I gather, if plays continue, so say that there's somebody who's clearly offside, but they let the play continue, and then a foul occurs on that player, it's like, okay, if it's something like, for instance, violent conduct, which you could probably argue that was at the weekend, then you can still get booked for that or sent off. You can still get punished for it, even though the play's offside. If it was, for instance, that Oda was clean through on goal, and then someone had just clipped his heels as he was running clean through, that wouldn't be a foul because that's a denial of goal scoring opportunity. But there is no goal scoring opportunity because it's offside. Yeah. So that's a distinction, I think, from what I understand. I might be wrong, but that's I understand it.
Dennis' challenge was dangerous play, so that's it's effectively it's endangering opposition.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter if the ball's in play or not. It's
exactly that's it. Yeah. So if it was just a denial of a goal scoring opportunity, which is normally it'd normally be a red, but it wouldn't be because it's offside. This wasn't that though. It wasn't that. It was I'll be honest. At first, in real time, I wasn't really sure what had happened. To be perfectly frank, I didn't think there was much in it at all. But when you go back and see the replays, you can see Dennis does, Oda's past him, and Dennis sticks his leg out behind himself to try and catch Oda and stick him out. It's not a natural move.
It's a bad challenge.
No, yeah, exactly. If anyone else in the pitch does that, it's a red card. Yeah, I think it's as simple as that. Yeah, I don't think there's much to it, to be honest.
We'll move on to before we finish up, we'll move on to some of the comments coming in. Ross Parker asks, when is Craig Gordon back? When is Halkett back? As for actual dates, not sure, but Naismith has suggested that the 4 injured players, so that he can put Atkinson and Mackay into this, will be involved over the next few weeks, whether it's on the bench, I think. So Gordon, I imagine Gordon's dying to get back. He's been away. He's played a few games. Halkett, I think Halkett was actually hopeful to be back for the St Johnstone game the other week, so he must be very, very close. So yeah, I would imagine we'd see. I think Naismith has been reluctant to put actual dates on it. It's like this. He's going to be back here, so I wouldn't be surprised if you get to a game, whether it's Wednesday against Aberdeen on Saturday or Celtic the following Saturday, and you see one of these guys in the team or in the 11 as a surprise. So yeah, it's unfortunately can't say specifics on that one. Graham mentions that I don't think it's a surprise. Will look a lot better with a fully fit Benny. His composure on the ball, as well as his work to win it back, is very important. Like you've mentioned to me a couple of things, Mark, I'm sure, is that you've been really impressed with Binningame as a player.
Yeah, no, I think he's been fantastic. I think that kind of as Graham's saying there, as he's got back to full fitness and as he's slowly got back to the getting properly match fit. He's looked better and better every week. I think he's really composed on the ball. Like, unflappable is the word that comes to mind. It doesn't really matter if he's under a lot of pressure. He's pretty happy with it. He's also one of these players that in the position that he plays, because he's playing a lot of kind of little last second passes, he picks up his fair share of dunts. He gets little clips in the shins and on the ankles and things like that constantly throughout games, but he doesn't let it get to him. He just keeps on going. I've been really impressed with him, actually, and I think that he's probably got a really interesting role in the squad, and just in the fact that I don't think there's anyone else that's really a like-for-like replacement with Beningame.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's anyone else in the starting 11 at the moment you could really say that for. I think I've been really impressed with Beningame. Obviously, the season didn't start well with that game he was pitched in against Rosenborg away when he really shouldn't have been. But he's gone from strength to strength since, and he's starting to look like the player that Hearts fans know he can be. What we saw before the injury, where he was, one of the best number sixes in the league.
Yeah, I always find it interesting speaking to fans of other team or seeing fans of other team comment about just how impressed with Benny is, and I think that's always a mark of like you've got a good player if fans of other teams are noticing it. Moving on to, can I just answer this one question quickly? Sorry, was it wrong to play? Craig Rankin asked, was it wrong to play Boyce on the plastic? I don't think it is. Hearts have trained on the plastic pitch all week. I think it was Boyce maybe just being very cautious, and Naismith said he didn't think it was too serious and he just felt something in his legs, so they don't really know. We'll get a better idea tomorrow at the press conference, but I don't think it was wrong to play Boyce on the plastic. I might be wrong, but Hearts trained indoors and outdoors, both on artificial surface in the build up to the game, so never know. We'll finish up with a couple of quick things. You messaged me yesterday, James, when watching the game. We just you mentioned it earlier on, but messaged me just saying how impressed you are with Danny Armstrong. And I think just finishing with Danny Armstrong is that you look at him in the position he plays for Kilmarnock as often as a kind of right wing back. You just think he would suit Hearts perfectly, just because you'd give him good balance. You've got Cochrane on the left, who's good defensively, stretches to play, and then Armstrong who can go outside, inside. Has a really good crossing ability, open play, does work hard as well, so gets back. He just looks like a natural fit. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, particularly with the Hearts' system at the moment, where it is a little bit lopsided, where generally more's asked from the right wing back of an attacking sense than the left. I think that's it. Obviously that suits Armstrong down to a T. He is definitely more of an attacker than a defender naturally, but I was just watching him. I was just really, really impressed with him, to be honest. Like from over the course of the full 90 minutes, he's comfortable on either feet. He's, like I said, he's comfortable going either way. He's happy to take his man on. He's comfortable carrying the ball forward. It's in a match where you're struggling to get on the ball and struggling to get forward, he's exactly the guy who's going to do that for you. He is going to just take the ball and carry it. And obviously he's got that end product as well. So I think I was just watching it, just thinking. Obviously, Hearts have had their problems at right wing back in recent weeks anyway. Obviously in the last couple of games, we've seen Oda, Sibic, and Alan Forrest all playing there, all with kind of mixed results. Some of them have done okay, some of them have struggled at times. None of them have really looked like the whole package. And while part of me does think maybe Armstrong's a little bit too similar to, say, Forrest, and maybe a little bit too dissimilar to Sibic, I do think that. I mean, you don't play at right wing back in a Derek McInnes team unless you know how to do a bit of defending. He drills that into you, and I think that he's solid enough from a defensive perspective. And I think, from an attacking perspective, he offers so much. Last season, there's an argument to be made that no player was as important to their team as Danny Armstrong was to Kilmarnock. I thought of him in maroon, doing a similar sort of thing could be quite an enticing one. So we'll see what happens in January. I mean, I'm not going to hold my breath. I don't see it happening anytime soon. But I was just watching it back, and that was the main thing that struck me was Hearts should definitely sign Danny Armstrong. That was my main take.
Because I talked about Benny being liked by fans of other teams. I think a lot of Hearts fans Armstrong's the type of player that look at and just go, yeah, he would be a good signer, especially he knows the league and stuff. But I think
whether or not Kelly could be convinced to sell, especially mid-season, that remains to be seen.
Yeah,
I
think that always needs to be taken into consideration when fans go, oh, we should just sign this boy from Kilmarnock or like Motherwell, whoever. It's just, it comes with a premium because you're signing them in the league that you're going to have to pay a wee bit extra. Just that's how it works. And he's under contract until 2025 as well, unfortunately. So it's not as if he's out of contract at the end of the summer. We will leave it there. It's done half an hour, and I think we've looked back on, dug into the details of the game. I think the kind of just to conclude, I think the big thing for me was just the fact that Hearts won ugly. It was you. I think you've on this and also in your piece, you've detailed exactly why Hearts won the game, and there was thought behind it, and there was structure. Like, just watching the 90 minutes, we're just like, that was a performance which you need in Scottish football, where you need to dig in and you need to battle and you just need to head clear and block when needed. And I think Hearts have shown that they've got a different side to their game now, and I think that's one of the most encouraging aspects of the game, going into a run of fixtures where we're going to have to do a lot of defending because we've got Rangers and Celtic sandwiched between a trip to Pittodrie. So yeah, it's set up for a really encouraging next kind of 10, 11 days. Hearts are in a really, really good position now. I can consider 3-4 weeks ago when there was a lot of kind of doubt or suspicion about this team, but now putting itself in really, really good position. And you can look to these games with anticipation rather than kind of apprehension and nervousness. And we will be back tomorrow to talk about to look forward to the Rangers game once the pressure's out the way. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting next 10, 11 days, and hopefully that's going to be involve a statement win, whether it's at Celtic, I hope the Rangers, or finally winning at Pittodrie.
Any of them would be very welcome. I don't think fans would turn their nose off at any of those ones. I think if you said to them, you win one of the next 3 games, most fans are probably not too upset about that.
Yeah,
obviously you'd like to win more, but if you were told like you can win one, draw one, lose one, that wouldn't be bad.
That's it. Exactly, and the fact that they won the last 4 has put Hearts back into 3rd place. At least it's given the cushion that it's not going to be okay if you struggle in the next 3 games, 2 of which against Old Firm, then you're not in like 10, 11 days time, you're not going to be massively behind someone in 3rd place. You're still going to be in and about it, and maybe still sitting 3rd, just the nature of the league. So yeah, very encouraging, and we'll leave it there. Be sure to check heartstandard.co.uk for all the latest from we're just kind of looking back at the weekend's game. Got a lot of analysis, a lot of comment from Lon Shanklin, Steven Naismith, Dermot McInnes as well. James's piece going up at very, very shortly on how Hearts won the game, and there will be plenty in the next couple of days looking ahead to the Rangers game. And like I said, James and I will be back tomorrow to discuss and look ahead to the Rangers game. But until then, have a good day and goodbye.